right, so we're going to solve this one by completing the square, and it says when a does not equal 1, and that basically just means we have a number there in front of the x squared that we're going to have to worry about. Okay, and I think we're pretty good at that, so we don't have to worry too much, right? In this case, though, we're not just going to take it out, okay? We're going to actually end up with some fractions, but that's okay. Okay, so let's take a look. We have negative 2x squared minus 3x plus 7 equals 0. Okay, so remember when we complete the square for an equation where it's equal to 0, okay, we will start by putting the x squared and the x term on one side, and we'll have the constant term on the other. I always leave that space because that's where my other piece is going to go. Okay, and just so that I don't have to worry about that number in front of the x squared, I'll just divide everything by negative 2. Okay, remember I'm allowed to do that when I have an equation. And so I end up with x squared plus, because those negatives cancel, plus 3/2 x equals 7 over 2. Okay, those are going to cancel as well. All right, now I'm going to use the same method here, so don't get put off by that fraction there. Remember, I take 1/2 of the coefficient of the x term. Okay, so I'm going to take half of 3/4, which is 3/2, which is 3/4, right? And then I'm going to square that to get my last term, right? So 9 over 16. Okay, so what do I add on the end here? We add 9 over 16. Okay, and same thing here. I don't want to change the fact that it's equal. I need to add the same thing to both sides. Okay, and so this becomes x plus, and then half of 3/2 there, so 3/4. Okay, squared. I match these signs up, right? And that's equal to, okay, 7 over 2, that's 56. Multiply top and bottom by 8 over 16 plus 9 over 16. Okay, so I can write that as x plus 3/4 squared equals 65 over 16. Okay, to solve it, I'm going to take, or to continue to solve, I'm going to take the square root of both sides, taking plus or minus the square root on the right. Okay, that leaves me with x plus 3/4 over here. Okay, and over here, I can't simplify 65, but I can simplify 16. So I'm going to go plus or minus root 65. Okay, now the denominator is not under the radical sign anymore, and that's just a 4. Okay, so when I solve this, I'm going to go, by subtracting 3/4 from both sides now. Okay, and remember I said that I like to have my rational part before my irrational part, or before my radical part in my answer. So I go negative 3/4 plus or minus root 65/4, which, since they have a common denominator, can be written as negative 3 plus or minus root 65 over 4, right? And that's the way that you're going to see it most often, okay? And so what I really would like to do here, because I want to check it using technology, this is an exact answer, right? I hope everybody understands that this is what you would call an exact answer, because you haven't found the square root of 65 and you haven't done any rounding. So if you're asked for an exact answer, give it like that. If you're asked for a decimal, or if you want to check it on the graphing calculator, then you're going to want to punch that into your calculator. Okay, so I'll go negative 3 plus or minus root 65, or plus root 65, divide that by 4, and you get 1.2656. Okay, and then if you go negative 3 minus root 65, divide that by 4, you get negative 2.7656. Okay, so 1.2656 and negative 2.7656. Okay, and we're just going to go put that in the graphing calculator. Okay, and like I generally like to do, I'm going to take it right off of the original equation. So none of my work figures into, I could potentially make a mistake that would make it look like I did it correctly when I didn't. Okay, so 2x squared minus 3x plus 7. Okay. Whoa. All right. So I just want to find my roots. I don't really have to zoom in too much because it'll actually give it to me. So negative 2.766 and 1.266. Yeah, so they just had one more decimal place, or we had one more decimal place, but to check, when we checked on the graphing, it said 1.26, positive 1.266, and negative 2.766. Okay, so that verifies that we've done all our work properly, that this is the correct exact answer, and these are correct rounded answers, and I think the book asked for it to the nearest 10th anyway. No, the nearest 100th. Yeah, so 1.27 and negative 2.77.